What's going on, YouTube, and welcome back to my channel. So today is technically October 5th, 2025, a Sunday. I did not record my video for yesterday, which was October 4th, 2025, which was a Saturday. So we're gonna go ahead and record that today. So y'all might be a little confused because I am gonna record another video for today, which is October 5th. But this one is technically gonna be for October 4th. So anyways, yeah, I literally haven't been feeling the best. I've had like really low energy. I pretty much work Monday through Friday, and my schedule is 8 o'clock in the morning, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then 7:45 Tuesday, Thursday. And then sometimes like I'll get off earlier, sometimes I'll get off later. And I'll just explain a lot in this video. But before I get on with this video, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that little bell, and turn it on to all so you can be notified every single time I post a brand new video. And that little side arrow, make sure you hit that. It's a little share video like / page out. Also, good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you are at in the world watching. Thank you for stopping by. You guys, we are at 179 subs now. So I was at 178 like 2 days ago, and I went on today and saw that I was at 179. So we gained one more 90s Baby Squad person, so I'm very excited. We're getting up there, we're moving up. My goal is to reach 200 subs by the end of 2025, and then hopefully by 2026 I'll reach like 300 by the end of 2026, and by the end of 2027 I'll reach 400, and so on and so forth. You guys, once we hit 1,000, I get my first YouTube plaque. So if we can beat over that record of 200, I would be so happy of you guys. Also, if you are a new subscriber, welcome to the 90s Baby Squad. If you're an old subscriber, welcome back. You guys have probably been a part of me since I was the McDaniel Army. But we are now the 90s Baby Squad, so love that. And if you see my setup a little bit different than any other time, I am using my iPad that I got for my birthday in April. So it's more like panned out, which I love. I just kind of realized that I'm gonna have to like cut some things out in this video, but we'll leave it until we can see what YouTube allows or whatever the case may be. But yeah, this video is a long-awaited video. So technically, let's think that today is October 4th, 2025, a Saturday, okay? Which it's really not, but let's just pretend. So this is going to be my life update video, y'all. So this video is going to be from 2009 up until now. So I have a whole list written out on this piece of paper. Don't want to show too much, but I do want to spread the word out on here because my other social media platforms, they know a lot more, and I think that now is the time to do kind of a big life update for you guys and put things in there that I've shared with other platforms and I haven't shared with you guys yet. So, let's start off with 2009. So I went to high school from 2009 to 2012, and I tell people all the time that I will always remember what grade I graduated because I will always graduate that grade that year. So 2008, I was in 8th grade. So that summer, we went into 9th grade. So it was like 2008, 2009 that I was a freshman in high school. All the way up until 2012. Graduated in 2012. High school was a fun experience. It had a lot of its ups and downs. There was a lot of flaws and not flaws, but that's what everybody goes through when they're going through their teenage years. My schooling was amazing. I got offered the national scholarship or whatever the case may be. But the trick is for that, they get you and you have to pay money, so it's not technically free. But I got really good, decent grades up until my 12th grade year. I had some events happen in my life that I wish that I could have helped. But I lost a cousin that year. And I had just seen him the summer before, and there was like no signs of what happened. I would try to like contact him on a daily basis, like he seemed happy. He had a girlfriend, everything, like he seemed happy. And then one day my grandma came to school to drop some money off because we had some sort of fundraiser or something happening at school. And she got the news, and I knew something was wrong, but she wouldn't tell me. And then she ended up telling me that night, and I just lost it because like I had just seen him that summer, and like we weren't really that close, but we were close. So I wish that I could have done something. But I'm talking about like I used to be like in like a and B type of student, and then I don't know, like 11th grade ended, and I guess like I kind of hit that end of school year depression because I had made so many good friends over the years. Like when I was a kid, I was very shy, kind of like to myself. And then once I got to like 13, 15 years old, I started to like branch out. And then when 18 hit, I really started to branch out. So, there's a background story. I tell people all the time that I was a caterpillar that was stuck in her cocoon, and I bloomed into this very outgoing butterfly. And there is parts of me still that just want to like keep myself shut in that cocoon, but I tell myself on a daily basis, like, you're beautiful, you're kind, you're smart, you're funny, you're friendly. Like, get out there. And when I'm like down and low, I kind of turn to social media. Like, this is my escape from reality. So I do go live on TT, and I go live on Favorited. I post on Instagram, all the things. And I'm gonna start planning going live here on YouTube, if I can fit that in. I am in an agency on TT and Favorited, and there's big things coming with that agency too, so I'm very excited for that. So yeah, high school was amazing. 2009 to 2012, I kind of slipped away, ending my 11th grade year into 12th grade year, but still made it kind of magical. I still talk to some of my friends here and there, but not like we used to. I hate to tell everybody that's in high school, but you make friends, and as you get older, you become your own life, and you kind of slip away from each other, which kind of sucks because some of my friends were freaking amazing, and I just wish that I still had that bond with some of them. But when I went to high school, I ended up meeting someone in 2010. This guy who I met in high school, I had a really good friend. He ended up dating her for a while, and she was my best friend. They ended up dating for a while, and then I guess things didn't really work out, or whatever the case may be. And he ended up coming up to me one day and was like, hey, do you want to become what so-and-so and I were? And I was like, let me think about it. And then within that year, like, he slipped away. Let me see here. Okay, so this guy dated one of my best friends while we went to high school. Okay, and so this guy that him and I were really interested in, he had a good friend So she kind of hooked me up with his best friend. And the both of them grew up in the system. Now, when I say grow up in the system, I mean they're in and out of juvenile, they're in and out of prisons, they're in and out of jail, they're in and out of like group homes and stuff like that. And they're in and out of like their parents' homes or like their guardians or whatever the case may be. Let me see. This guy that dated my best friend. Okay. So, his best friend and I dated for a while. My best friend and I, she and I used to like hang out a lot during the weekends and whatever the case may be. And if we knew that they were like going to the movies or whatever, because they would call us over the phone, like they got a certain amount of time on the phone while growing up in these system places. And we like tried to arrange things multiple times. Well, her and I ended up going to the movie theaters and we watched a movie together. And yeah, that was amazing. Then they both kind of slipped away from us. They ended up, I guess, going to different group homes or whatever the case may be when that time was. But this guy that dated my best friend ended up coming back to where I'm from, where I'm currently living now. And apparently the whole time he had my phone number. So he ended up calling me. I answered the phone just, I don't know, because we're teenagers, let's be for real. So I ended up answering the phone, and I was like, well, who's this? And he was like, oh, it's so-and-so. And I was like, oh my God, hey, like, you saved my number the whole time. So then we ended up meeting at the place he was staying in. And I visited with him on grounds. And then that night I went home and I think he called me and I asked him like what we were at this point, because I think at the time being we were both single. Back in high school, like we both knew that we had feelings for each other. We both knew that we wanted to be with each other, but the timing wasn't right. You know, teenagers being teenagers, they want to explore many options. So we ended up getting on the phone either that night or the next morning, and I asked him like, what are we? And he ended up saying that we were boyfriend and girlfriend. In 2013, I believe that was the day. We got together officially on February 16th, 2023. And that was always our date. Then, you know, we started to become older. Now, growing up in the systems, you can only be a certain age and you have to end up leaving completely. So we were completely in love with each other. We didn't know what to do because he ended up turning this certain age. And it was like we were kind of in a rush to like find a place together. So I started going online, looking at houses, looking at apartments, looking at condos, blah, 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 blah. Now, mind you, he's been growing up in the system, so he barely has any money. And I just recently started working. I started working when I was 18 years of age. So I didn't have too much money. So it was very difficult. We didn't know what to do. If we didn't find a place together, he would have been put into a shelter, and it would have been very hard to see each other. So an option was for us to move across country and go live with my parents, and at the time my two little sisters. And so in 2015, I pretty much dropped everything for him, and my granddad ended up driving us across country to Wisconsin, and so we could start our lives there together. we lived with my parents for a couple months, and it was very hard living in that house just because this is hard. I have more of a bond with my mom than I do with my dad up until this day. And I don't know if it's just huge regret because my parents didn't raise me. My grandparents raised me. So my mom's parents raised me. And I'm so thankful for that because if I didn't have them, I probably would have been in foster care. And so I try to have this bond with my dad. It's not there. And if you're watching this, I'm so sorry. Like, I still love both of you guys, but it was very hard living in that house. And they had their own kids that they were taking care of at the time. So now they have 2 adults in the house plus their own kids and themselves to worry about. And so it was very hard. We had to do things that we shouldn't have done while living in that house. And I'm talking about like going around and like sneaking food and like buying things behind their back and like trying to figure out a way to hide it. It just got to the point where they would almost kind of flip schnapples on us. And I don't know, it was just very hard. Like, I did not want to be there because I already knew that that state and that county that they lived in was just not it. And when my granddad ended up leaving, like, I think I ended up calling them like the next day and I was like, I want to come home. And I just went through like a kind of a whole like state of depression. And I had dropped everything for this guy. Like, just moved my whole life. Like, didn't really have a chance to like see you later to anybody. It was just kind of like boom, 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 boom. And yeah, it was hard. So I lived in Wisconsin from 2015 to about 2021, somewhere like that. My parents did end up helping us out, and they knew somebody that lived across the street from them. And this building used to be like an old shack and like some sort of store back in the day. And then I guess everything like shut down. So then they became like little like apartments or whatever the case may be. So we got the little like shack next door to my landlord's place. And now mind you, when we were living in my parents' house, I ended up getting a job at McDonald's, I think, and he ended up getting a job at a local grocery store. The local grocery store thing didn't last too long, and I worked at the McDonald's for about 4 years. And then we ended up moving across the street. I don't remember when exactly, but my parents did help us out with that. Then we kind of moved in. We didn't have a whole lot to move in, but then over the years, we started to like get stuff and whatever the case may be. We did get some like free shelving to put like our TVs on and all that stuff from people that like my parents knew because they have lived in this county for a while. But yeah, it was a cute little place. You would go into the front door. It would be kind of like the living room area, the kitchen, the bathroom, and then there would be like a downstairs outdoor thing to like take the trash out, and then there would be an upstairs, and there was 2 bedrooms. Did we use the upstairs? No, not really. I think I used the majority of the upstairs to film like TTs and YouTube videos and all the case maybe, but we majority stayed downstairs. While living in this place, we ended up getting 2 cats and a dog. I missed them like crazy. I ended up finding out that, because I ended up paying majority of the rent, and it was tough because he ended up having a job working at a local grocery store. That didn't work out. He ended up getting a job at McDonald's. That didn't work out. So he pretty much became like a couch potato, pretty much used me for money, and he would stay up all night and sleep all day. I would pretty much work all day or all night, whatever the case may be, depending on like where I was. When I worked at McDonald's, I started off as a crew, and then I moved up to crew member, and then I moved up to management. So when you move up to management, you're pretty much obligated to work when you need to work. And so I was working morning shifts, and I was working afternoon shifts, and then I ended up working night shifts and overnight shifts, and ended up having to come back after working overnight shifts. It was just crazy. I think our rent was about $500 a month, and we were paying $250 every other week because I was the only one working in the house. But I ended up finding out that he ended up pretty much staying there, not paying anything, didn't really clean like he was supposed to, and so they ended up kicking him out. He ended up living in a hotel room for a while, and then I think he finally met someone and ended up having to give the cats and the dog away because they were demolishing this hotel, and never told me that he was giving them up. So yeah, that kind of bummed me out. But anyways, as the years went on, things got worse with the relationship. We weren't all lovey-dovey. He ended up losing 2 jobs, didn't want to work, didn't have any motivation, was very just down and out for the count. Wasn't the guy that I fell in love with back in 2010 or 13, whatever the case may be. We ended up getting pregnant with twins, and I was about 7 weeks. They did not make it, so I did not know whether or not they were boys, girls, 1 boy, 1 girl. Ended up losing them in 2019, like I said, and that was the hardest time of my life. I blamed everything on myself. I blamed it on him. I blamed it on the world. At this time, I was working at Walmart because I ended up leaving McDonald's. McDonald's was just not working out for me, so I needed to move on. So I ended up moving on to Walmart, and I was one of those, those people that push the blue carts around and do like the pickup orders. I was one of those people. So this time when this happened, I missed about 2 months of work. Put myself in a whole state of depression. Just didn't want to be around anybody. Now, as the years went on, like I said, things got worse. The relationship became real toxic. And when I say toxic, I mean he used me. He was very narcissistic. I was mentally, physically, and emotionally abused. And so much more. And at this time, when I was going through the grieving process of our twins, I was on TT, and I was scrolling, and this video popped up on my FYP. And it was this lady who was telling her story about her grieving of a stillbirth. And so I went and I commented on it. She ended up commenting back. We went into each other's TT DMs. We started talking there. we moved over to Instagram, and then we ended up getting each other's phone numbers, and we would talk every day. Everything that I was going through, she was going through. I don't want to disclose too much information because we do kind of still talk here and there, but we don't talk as much as we used to. So I ended up needing to get out. The relationship was just, it was just awful. It was awful. It was not where I needed to be. So I told him, I said, this lady lived in Arizona. I said, I'm going to Arizona. I'm going to meet her. I'm going to find a place for the both of us so we can move on, because obviously neither one of us was happy where we were. So in about 2021, and I know I was crazy because it was just a year after the COVID pandemic, but in 2021, I packed up half of our house and drove my Nissan Versa from Wisconsin to Arizona. That was about 26 to 28 hours straight through. Didn't stop anywhere. The only times that I stopped was to get an energy drink or to use the bathroom or to get a snack. I was on a very low budget. I ended up getting to Arizona in like May 4th of 2021, and that was the best time of my life. I met this amazing lady. She was my best friend, and I broke things off completely with this guy that I was with. Now, mind you, him and I became boyfriend and girlfriend in 2013, and then a couple of years later, we became fiancés. I did wear a ring, so a lot of my TT videos, or a lot of my old YouTube videos, like, you will see him in the videos, or you will see videos of me wearing a ring. I've been ringless for, oh gosh, 2021. Well, I think we knew things were going south once we lost the twins. So 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024. I've been single for almost 8 years now. Which is crazy to think about. So I broke things off completely with him while living in Arizona. And that was probably another hard part of my life, because I thought he was my best friend. But I got out. I got out of a very toxic, abusive relationship, and I know this month of October is domestic violence awareness, so I'm a survivor. This stuff is very hard to talk about, but it needs to be out there. And if you or anyone that you know is suffering from an abusive relationship, leave in the comments down below. Make sure you check on your people. Well, in this relationship, we lived across the street from my parents, and he didn't like the fact that I was going to spend time with my family at times, and he was very controlling. And my sister, my mom, and I went to Mall of America one day, and he FaceTimed me, and he was like, if you don't get this for me, then blah, 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 blah. And I was like literally in the corner crying, and I couldn't tell my mom or my parents anything at the time, but like slowly I'm starting to like open up, even though it's multiple years later. So yeah, I broke things off with him while living in Arizona. That was probably one of the hardest things of my life to do as well, because he was going to be the parent of 2 of our kids. And so that hit me real hard. But it made me connect with people that I haven't connected with in years. And I felt somewhat decent, somewhat wanted, but not really, because when you're in a relationship for 9+ years, yes, I was with this guy for 9+ years. That's all you know. Like, that's all you know. To go to bed with that person, to wake up in the morning with that person, to go places with that person, to, you know, all the things. So I didn't know what else to do. I put myself on dating apps. I met a lot of amazing people in Arizona. I kind of social media networked. And then I finally met someone in Arizona, and at this time, I would drive almost an hour to where he was, and I thought, oh my gosh, like this is it, like I'm actually meeting the one and only of my life, like this is where I needed to be. Well, turned out that that didn't really work out either, because I am still ringless, I'm still single. At the time, I was staying at my best friend's house and his house, and one night, in the middle of the night, probably like midnight, she kicked me out of the house because she didn't like the fact that I was staying at his house and her house, and I wasn't like abiding by the rules of her house, and I was missing work and blah 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 blah, whatever the case may be. Like I said, I'm not gonna put too much information of that out. But while living in Arizona, I met this person. Turned out it wasn't what it was supposed to be. I ended up finding a Snap story of him and this girl supposedly using my car. And I guess the whole time he had a whole girlfriend while being with me. While living in Arizona, I ended up breaking things off with that guy. My best friend kicked me out, and then my grandparents ended up coming down and was supposed to help me find a place because that's where I wanted to be. Like, I love the warm weather. I love how there's no daylight savings time and it's early still. And I love the West Coast. Grew up on the East Coast, so very different. But my best friend ended up calling my grandparents and things didn't work out and yada yada yada. So I ended up being put into an extended stay hotel. Lived in a hotel room for about a month. And the stories that I could tell while living there, but that'll be a different story time. So, I was working at a daycare out in Arizona, and I ended up putting my 2 weeks in because the only option now was for me to move back home. And so I moved back home in 2021, 2022-ish, and it was more towards the end of 2021. I lived out in Arizona for 7 months. Now, mind you, I lived in Wisconsin for 7 years, and I lived in the East Coast for pretty much all my life. I think I left here when I was 20 years old, or maybe 21. So pretty much all my life I lived on the East Coast. Now, while living in the extended stay, I ended up putting my 2 weeks in, and it was the 2 weeks before Thanksgiving or whatever the case may be, and I ended up getting real sick. I thought I had the flu and whatever the case may be, and then I ended up coming home, and now mind you, I usually don't do this, but anyways, my granddad ended up flying out. I ended up going to pick him up at the airport. We drove my Nissan home. Almost blew my Nissan up. That's a whole nother story. But, yeah, I pretty much slept the whole trip home. Now, I never do that. I guess my body was just overly exhausted from me being sick, whatever the case may be. Excuse me. And I ended up starting my new job at the daycare out here December of 2021. And when I moved back home in 2021, my grandparents asked me if I wanted to go to my aunt and uncle's. I told them that I didn't feel good. The second that they left, I ended up like throwing up. When I was living in the extended stay hotel, I thought I had the flu, so of course there was like throwing up involved. And then I think I threw up one more other time. So I thought I was always constantly sick because of different altitudes, whatever the case may be, and I have really bad like seasonal allergies and sinus issues and this, that, and the third. Well, come to find out, I was 17 weeks pregnant. Now that's 2 or 3 months pregnant. And I didn't have any idea. I didn't have any idea. When I became pregnant with my twins, I knew something was up. But when I became pregnant with this one, I had no idea. And the only reason that made me like do a pregnancy test was because my assistant director asked me if I was with child, and I said no, I'm just a little heavy set due to the altitude changes. And then I was texting one of my good friends, and she was like, girl, everything that you're explaining to me, like, those are the symptoms that I had when I was pregnant with my kids. And so my grandparents ended up going out of town or out of somewhere to do something. And I ended up door dashing pregnancy tests, and I took them on Valentine's Day, I think. And they lit up like Christmas trees, and I was like, no way. And my grandma had said something. She was like, are you sure you're not pregnant? She's like, your stomach's getting harder. I was like, no. And then I like to go to the doctors and confirm it, and sure enough, it was 17 weeks pregnant. I had no idea, y'all. So I had my kid in 2022, July to be exact. There was a lot of contemplating with my family during this time, and I stood my ground, and I carried this child for the full 9 months, and it was the most amazing experience of my life. Now, this child of mine was the guy that I met, found out that he had a whole girlfriend the whole time. Just because the only reason I know it's his is because when I went to the doctors to get it finally approved, they told me I conceived back in October, and I went back to my photos, and I was looking at all the pictures, and everything added up. So obviously he's not in the picture. Probably won't ever be. The last time I heard from him was, let's see, I've been here for 2 years. Almost 3 years ago, 4 years ago was the last time I heard from him. So yeah, that'll be a different story. So now me being pregnant, majorly pregnant, and I was living with my grandparents. The only reason I came back home was to get my stuff together and to possibly move to wherever I wanted to move to. Well, that didn't work because I've been home for 5 years, and I'm kind of to the point now where I'm like, kiddo's at a certain age, I'm like, I'm ready to go, but I feel like being here is where we need to be right now, just because the schooling systems and all that, and I'm thinking long term. So, yeah, so me being majorly pregnant and having my kid, there was a lot of rules because my grandparents did move from one county to another, and this area that they live in, they have HOA and a lot of like rules and regulations, and so nobody can stay there under the age of 19. And so I ended up going through a whole homeless program. Ended up going through a whole homeless program. Lived at that place for a couple months, but I was back home for a whole year before they even called me. So there was a whole waiting list. ended up living at that place for a couple months, getting out of the program because we are now here. We have been here for about 2 years now, and it has been the greatest thing of my life. Going through that homeless program was probably another rough patch of my life, but I would not change my life for anything. I love being a mom. I've always known that I wanted to be a mom, and to be honest with you, I would have been a single mom of 3. So yeah, I am grateful, thankful, and blessed of what we have been through in life. And I thought that I've been going through my healing process for years and years and years because I was going through that traumatic experience in life, you know, with the whole boyfriend and ex-fiance thing and whatever the case may be. And then losing my twins and getting kicked out of my best friend's house. And I was just going through a lot. But we are now in a complete healing journey. I have turned to God. I have become spiritual. I have been praying and listening to devotionals and getting into my Bibles and getting daily Bible verses and connecting with people. And so we are in a complete healing era. And yes, I do have my lows still, but God sees it and God has a plan for everything. And this has been my life story from 2009 up until now. And I probably have forgotten a lot of things, but it's okay because we can do multiple parts of this video. If you guys want more information, let me know in the comments down below. And yeah, you guys, we're making it through. We are making it through, and I'm very excited to share my journey with y'all. Now, me being a single mom, it is my choice, so you guys can judge me if you want, but I do not post my kid anywhere on social media. Nowhere. Because this world is just so corrupted and so cruel, and there's just too many creeps and too many this, that, and the thirds, and I would probably lose my mind if I were to ever lose my kid. And so yeah, that's just my option. I know every parent is different, every circumstance is different, but this is mine, and we're gonna live it. I'm gonna go, but before I go, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that little bell, turn it on to all so you can be notified every single time I post a brand new video. Make sure you hit that side arrow as well and share this video out as well as my page. And let's get the name Forever and Always 1994 out into the world because it is 2025. Why not? And I love and appreciate every single one of you. Thank you guys so much for continuing to stay here, to help me grow, to help me learn, to help me thrive and achieve. And I will see you guys on the flip side. Forever and Always 1994 is out. Toodles!